In one way, I just want to show the main bit of what, just show a 3-minute video, because I realise when you get to this stage and you're the 10th person speaking and not the last, that there's a limit of what people can actually take in. So if you only had to go away with one point, I want to kind of say a wee bit about what East Belfast was like arts-wise 5 years ago, and then just show one little snippet for 3 minutes of what it was like a few months ago. So if you only go away with that, that's probably enough. But I want to, of course, I'm not going to let you get away with that. I want to preface it with a couple of things just, and then say a couple of things afterwards. Like Adam, I'm not going to try and prove the benefits of arts, particularly in East Belfast. I was asked by a Swedish group who were over here last year, have we done any research on the value of arts? And I said, no, none whatsoever. But if you look at East Belfast and some of the pictures Adam showed you, and if you Google East Belfast in news and you see what people associate us with, and you ask yourself the question, would East Belfast benefit from a wee bit more arts? I think the answer to that is yes. So that's about all we're actually going on. But the one thing I would say is arts isn't always good for your health. And for those of you sitting around here who manage arts organisations and who put in funding applications and who put in, I'm not sure what they're called, after you've done it, where you tell the funder who's really interested, how good or bad the event was. I think that's the most soul-destroying thing that people have to do in delivering arts. In fact, my gut feeling is it probably takes up 1/3 to 1/2 of people's emotional energy anyway that would be much better put into delivering art. So arts is good for everybody's health, but we could make it so much better for the health of people who are actually delivering arts if we took a slightly different approach to how we did that. And the last thing I want to say, just before I introduce this, I think it was the 80s where I first got involved with something called East Belfast Festival. And it was probably a kind of a bouncy castle festival, if you know what I mean. There wasn't a huge lot of arts in it. But it's probably since then, which was before I was involved in the partnership, people have been trying to get something off the ground. And actually something happened, I think it was about 5 years ago, where one guy just put up on Facebook, anybody interested in trying to get an arts festival going in East Belfast. Now he didn't stay involved, but he triggered that. And somehow it just came at the right time, and there were a number of people, including Adam and a whole pile of other people, who got together and said, let's do something. And as soon as we did, I remember getting a phone call from Danny Morrison, who at that stage was chair of FIA, and has been a good friend of East Belfast Arts Festival, EastSide Arts Festival, and he wanted to put one event on. Now, he wasn't bringing the Wolf Tones or Christy Moore. He wanted to put a little lecture on about the shipyard. So not exactly, but it was a West Belfast festival event in East Belfast. But what struck me is he phoned me one night and he said, can we bring a pull-up? And I said, yeah. And he said, are you sure? And I said, yeah. What sort of place do you think this is that you can't actually put a pull-up that says, FILA? And in a sense, that was the kind of image people had of arts in the East. So I just want to show this video, if somebody presses the right button for me. And this is one of the small things we managed to do this year. And honestly, if someone had said we could show that video 5 years ago, I would have thought they were just completely nuts to think we could do something like that in East Belfast, and yet now we feel it is part of that community. 3 very quick things I want to say. Just speaking recently, about 3 months ago, at an event where there were a couple of ministers at, and was asked a question during the panel about funding. And we're a regeneration agency with arts as a part of. And my response to that was, if I was in the executive, I would cut the regeneration budget, and I say that as a manager of a regeneration agency. I would cut the regeneration budget before I'd cut the arts budget. Because arts is one of the most critical things that leads to a positive community, and you can't regenerate a community unless there is some kind of strong arts there. And I accept we couldn't actually do that, and I know Adam's about to deliver, with the help of others, a small festival in East, and they're going to try and do that with no funding at all, which is fantastic. I accept we couldn't have done that without funding, and I recognise the importance of funding. But I would actually as a regeneration manager, I would up the arts budget and reduce the kind of regeneration budget. Having said that, I'm going to a meeting at 2 o'clock in Oxford House to be told our regeneration budget is being cut by 20% this year, which I'm not terribly excited about. But I'd actually rather a regeneration budget was cut than our arts budget. Second thing I just want to say is I was asked what was the thing that for me was the biggest personal highlight of that festival there, of the Arts Festival. And although the Van Morrison event was one of the most high-profile events probably that happened in Northern Ireland during the summer, the thing that left me with most impact was actually one of the smallest of all, and you saw it in the middle where the one girl was pushing a girl off a chair. This Pint-Sized Productions doing a tiny little event in Short Strand Community Centre. And the emotional impact of that has lived with me to now. You know, being able to cry and laugh within about 5 seconds in the midst of that, you know, was amazing. And I think those things are really, really important. And in the whole discussion around community arts and what is community arts and the importance of community arts and making sure arts get into disadvantaged communities, I agree with all of that, but not at the expense of the arts experience. And actually, it is the arts community who are focused on arts in the community, in a sense, not the community sector. And I'm a firm believer that the funding for community arts needs to focus on arts and not in community. Because the artists I know want to be in all communities. So that for me is really important. And the last thing I want to say, we had a lot of international visitors here. And in the feedback, one of the things, certainly the personal feedback I've got, is the highlight for them, again, although most of them came for the Van Morrison event, was not the Van Morrison event in Cypress Avenue. The event they talked about most wasn't even in East Belfast, was actually in Cultureland. The thing that had most kind of, again, emotional impact on them was going with so many people and hearing the Van Morrison songbook sung by local artists in both Irish and English. And in a sense, that had more positive feedback than the main event itself. And I'll finish with one thing, it's nothing to do with arts at all, is the biggest impact of anything from international visitors about their stay here was what you probably already know, the people. That they kept sending emails about the people who helped them, the people who they spent time with, the people who they enjoy being with. And I actually think that's one of the strongest things we have in Belfast. We've said it before, we may not be all that nice to each other, but we're hugely welcoming to people who come here. So let's keep that at the centre of our arts activity. Arts excellence, yes, but it's the people that make Belfast what it is. Thanks.